Ron Goodall, FightHype.com. I'm here with none other than Blair the Flair. Blair Cobbs, man. It's been a minute since I've seen some teeth flying out in the ring, and I know that a lot of boxing fans, you know, they wonder, what's Blair been up to. I know that you've had some new signings and new team ups. Shout out to Napper. He's been doing his thing, and it was a great collab that you guys came together. So, how's everything been going, man?
It's just we're just still working, making and staying prepared, get my body prepared and the next time we get out, we're going to be staying out consistently, Ain't no coming home after this, what I mean? Like we got to stay out. We're going to hit a couple bars, couple fights. So I don't know. It was been very very frustrating with the legal problems with Don King and just boxing in general is it's very frustrating, but we're getting through it.
Like it just seems like, you had two great wins, like back to back, right? I know that Maurice Hooker, like I can't remember necessarily what I was thinking at the time. I might have like picked Maurice Hooker because just kind of the odds and all that stuff. But obviously you went and you won that fight like single handedly. And then
Yeah, that
the
was a
age
big underdog fight for me.
Mhm.
That was a
and
big underdog fight. Yeah.
and then the Adrian Broner, I mean, like I said earlier, like you knocked his tooth out, you know what I mean? I know that a lot of fight fans themselves, like they particularly rate Jaron Ennis as like the best welterweight at the time, but like, cause he moved up, but you guys like bumped into each other. I was there, like the storyline, like all this stuff. I was like, that seems like the fight that should happen if he couldn't get like other opponents, but it just seemed like the momentum for some strange reason by dropping Broner to beating Maurice Hooker to going here and there. It's just like, you just can't get a break, it seems like, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, boxing is just nobody wants to lose, and it's hard for great fights to be made when you have guys that's really scared of losing, you know. And it's always going to be a problem if unless we have somebody that's bigger than boxing to control these things. But like as far as these promoters, they will always find a way to keep their presses gym safe. Virgil Ortiz is safe because I went on a 2 year layoff after the Maurice Hooker fight. Because why? Because I beat Hooker and Brad Solomon in way better fashions under better conditions. Like Brad Solomon had 2 weeks to prepare. He had 3 months to prepare for me. Um, Maurice Hooker, Maurice Hooker didn't have a broken hand before the fight. I mean, they fought, and he actually had to make weight. He wasn't nowhere near the weight when he fought me. You know what I mean? Like, and he had a broken hand before the fight. And when he went down, he didn't go down from Virgil's punches. He went down because the agony of his hand. Um, After seeing those things, Golden Boy thought, you know what? They said it to me too, that you know what? It's too risky for you to fight Virgil. And so I'm like, okay, so am I gonna get my release in 90 days? Say, oh no, And now I had to go through a whole lot of legal things because they really took the best years of my career, and that time period. Because right after that, we were talking about the Broner, we talked about this, we talked about that, we're talking about a lot of big fights that we could have ran together, and I could have conquered the world within those 2 years. But it's very interesting, And then now with the whole Broner fight, I don't think Don really saw me winning that fight. I had to actually pick up my belt from Germany because they just refused to give me the belt. Obviously it had
Wow.
Adrian Broner's face all over. You know what I mean? It's okay. They could have just still gave it to me, Like,
That's crazy. I remember when I was at the Top Rank gym. I won't say what fighter specifically, but I was just like, Blair is gonna win this fight. And I know that. Adrian accomplished a lot, and there's no shade or whatever case, but like,
Mm.
even the bookies at that point saw the same thing, and like they had you as the favorite. But it seemed like even at that point when you performed, it was entertaining. You beat a good name. Like it just seems like somewhere along the line, you should get like enough. You know what I mean? Like somewhere in the mix, like the welterweight open up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good names. I mean, it's still is kind of the case now because it looks like belts have opened up and everything, and there's still a lot of opportunity. But I know that you were inactive, you beat Broner, you started, getting into the rankings, but then this Don King thing happens, and then the WBO like drops you out the top 15. So like,
Ah,
so like, what? I know you're going through the legal thing. Like, is there anything that I guess for the fans, right, the diehard fans that love to watch Blair to Flair? That could know why, like maybe could be the hiccup, with the Don thing. Like, is it just they're not
well,
giving
he
you a fight or just
he's just too old. He's just too old. He
hmm.
can't like vouch for me when things are happening. Like the fight with Rolly shouldn't have happened. That was supposed to be me. Ryan was
Wait,
supposed to lose to me, not Rolly.
you're
Why?
talking about
Like,
you were supposed to fight Ryan
yeah,
on
like
the
that on
Riyadh
that fight.
season card.
That's supposed to be my fight, not Ryan, not Rolly fight. You know what I mean? But it's just a whole lot of nonsense. They're not. Don can't be there to do something to use his influence or anything like that. He's kind of just stuck in Florida, and like I don't know. I don't know what's next for them. I mean, they say they're going to do a fight, but like I'm like, God damn, it's been over a year now. We could have got a bunch of fights together, or you could have just released me and let me
Hmm.
do what I gotta do outside of you guys. And they just made it very very difficult, and it's hard to tell somebody like that that's have such a unbelievably beautiful history with boxing. I
Yeah,
mean, ugly too, but like he was definitely one of the best to ever do it.
yeah.
So I don't know. I wish nothing but the best for him. Hopefully they you know, hopefully they're good.
I know there's promoters and contracts and things like that. And I know Turkey got the big bag, right? Essentially, like, is there any way, if this message goes out to like Turkey, right? Or like some matchmaking, like could a little bit of that extra money be able to kind of help? Would they be kind of open to work things? Because I know probably in their mind it's like, all right, we got this fighter, he just he got this win against Broner, so he's an asset now to the company, but we're not
Absolutely.
in the position to kind of like do anything, but we don't really want to let him go. So like, would some sort of entity or something like that be able to help? And because to me, I'm thinking that Riyadh season card. I mean, there's a lot of money. Like, I don't see why they couldn't just here's Blair, and if there's a percentage cut or whatever, like whatever, like I just don't understand how that just couldn't work out. Like, period.
Yeah, I think Blair Flair versus Rolly Romero would be a great fight for a co-main event feature on the Riyadh season card with Canelo Alvarez and my brother Terrence Crawford. Um, I think that should be the co-main event. If you want a great main event, that should probably be the most anticipated co-main event that they have out. You know what I'm saying? And that should be something that's worth looking over. Now I have Nova Sports and Elliot that's going to be helping out and seeing if they can call that fight forth. I have Terrence Crawford's number if he can pull that fight forward, um, because that probably would be the best co-main event
The
attraction
the,
if we
the
can
show
find.
the
Just
trash
just
talking
just the
league.
trash talking alone. I mean, because Canelo and Crawford don't really speak that much. They're fighting. Just their presence alone speaks enough. But then like the show, and I love a show. Just for the show, I think that Blair Flair and Ryan Garcia would be perfect. I mean, not Ryan, but
Rolly,
but
yeah,
Rolly. Yeah,
yeah.
Rolly would be perfect. And then obviously I can go ahead and knock off Ryan after, and then go ahead and finally put Devin Haney to sleep You know, let's just go ahead and end his career. Fade the black. I'm tired of him.
Well,
And then that's it.
before I get to that, I mean, like living in Vegas, like being around you and Rolly, like I've seen both you guys kind of grow into like this person. A lot of people like they don't really they see like the theatrics, but like there's like
Uh,
a whole nother like side, and I see like both you guys have matured a lot. So as much as my imagination is like the trash talk, and you did sell the Broner fight, in my personal opinion, do you really think like you and Rolly, because Rolly showed like calm. He was composed, right? And then there's levels of you who equally the same. Like, and I've seen it a little bit in the Broner promotion. Like, do you think if you and Rolly did fight each other, it would actually be like a trash talk or more of kind of like it?
that's
Go ahead.
that's the problem. The one of the biggest problems with me and Rolly, just like me and Ryan, like like the trash talking is gonna be. But you know something? It was the same dynamic with Broner too, though. You know, it's just a little weird because like we're friends. I've known this kid since he was a teenager. Like what I mean? Like
Hmm.
and like it's so it okay, since we known each other for like what, 10 years.
Hmm.
So it's that might be an issue, but I think that we can still put on a good show.
Yeah.
You know,
What'd you think when they had their sit down, the face off? It kind of tossed your name a little bit in there,
they did. What did it say? I
Oh,
didn't see it.
you didn't see it when they were sitting
No.
down? They were kind of talking about like the sparring session with you and Ryan had, essentially, I
Oh,
guess,
okay, okay.
things of that nature. Just curious because
That's
I know.
interesting.
But
That sparring was very interesting.
yeah.
You know, that was very eventful. He caught me with the hook. I went down and I got back up and went to work on him like an immigrant and made him quit. Um, quitting is way worse than getting knocked down. It's not really about how you get knocked down, it's how you get back up.
Hmm.
And in that particular aspect, that's what I've been good at, getting back up. So yeah, that was interesting. But I give it to him. I'll give him the sparring event, if he wants sparring credit. Because things about the fight.
Yeah, sparring,
So
sparring, and
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you and Rolly probably sparred before too. And
No, no,
really,
no,
okay.
no. Keep him away from me, man.
Why is that?
Well, like one, I was always a little bit bigger than him,
Okay.
until he moved up in weight. But also, like, I was a bit of a handful, especially if it was on a really good day for me. So it was probably just not good for somebody like him to get in there with somebody like me that'll probably abuse him, you know. But I think that with the way he's moving right now is great,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I think hey,
Like
this
the
is.
only reason why Ryan survived is because I had like the first time I've ever had a strength condition trainer, right? I go out and get a fucking weightlifter, like a
Hmm.
bodybuilder,
Yeah.
and they doing all the shit to my legs. They had my legs shaking and shit, like what I mean. And then the next day I get in there and I spar, what I mean. And I'm like, hold up, whoa. I'm like, damn, my legs ain't feeling the same. I'm not able to move the same way, but we're gonna work this out. You know what I mean? I'm like, why the fuck he keep throwing this hook, man? This weird ass hook. Like, okay. Like, pop. Oh, like, okay. So that's your weapon. Okay, now watch this.
But that's interesting. It seems like there's a whole nother side of the story that just hasn't been
This
told.
just started beating him into the corner until they're like, you know what? Let's get out of here. But it was good. A good guy.
Well, I mean, look, I think this would be a great petition. I know Rolly, wants like a Pacquiao fight, and who doesn't want a Pacquiao fight, right? But um, that like a head shake, like Pacquiao's too
Like
old, or
like
like.
like what, I don't know. Like Pacquiao is one of the greatest fighters to ever live by far, bar none. And like I don't understand why he's like why would he want to get back into fighting? Why would he want to get back into boxing? You know, I just don't see the reason behind all of that. I mean, if you need some money, do some commercials. Like everybody knows who Pacquiao is, and things like that. I just I don't really agree to Pacquiao fighting as an old man. Like this wasn't an Adrian Broner fight. You know what I mean? Like people be forgetting. People want to talk about how fucking Adrian Broner was old and dusty. He wasn't. We're the same age, motherfucker. What are you talking about? Like motherfucker's only 35. He's not 47. Like, you know what I mean? He's not Pacquiao old. You know what I mean? So, it's just, I don't know. Hopefully everything goes good. I don't know how that fight happens or why it even would even happen. Pacquiao fighting the WBC champion, which is who's that? Mario Barrios.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's put it like this: if you get knocked out by Pacquiao as a like, how old is Pacquiao? 55 or something?
he's he's 40 47, I think. Yeah.
47 or something. Yeah. You get knocked out by Pacquiao as an old man, an extremely old man that haven't had a knockout in a while. Man, you're the laughing stock of the world, bro. Like, it's over, dog. Just throw your shit
But
in,
but
man.
but 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 I guess in this case it's like
Your
it's
titles
Pacquiao though.
never meant shit ever. Like,
But I guess the out is like it's Pacquiao, right? Because Foreman, when Moore lost to Foreman, is like the first thing they say is the last thing is to go is the power, right? It's George Foreman. Shannon Briggs, even though he beat Foreman, I mean everyone kind of looked at that fight and was like, Foreman beat Shannon Briggs, and the list goes on. I think Donaire just won a fight against a young guy, and
yeah, there's
so.
there's some very exceptional athletes, and the whole thing is if you're a world champion, and like right now, I have to give Barrios credit because he's a world champion right now. But if you're a world champion, you better fucking start acting like it. You know what I mean? Like, cause he's dead meat if he fights me. He's dead. Like this fucking champ. This belt is probably worth more than his belt because he's like fucking 5 seconds to losing that bitch. Like right now. Like you know what I'm saying? Anybody like right now, the race is the race to Barrios. Who can? Who's gonna fight Barrios? And WBC, everybody's crowding that whole belt. You know what I mean? You got Golden Boy paying all kinds of dividends to keep that belt alive. And so I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but the
It's
Pacquiao situation is going to be very interesting with Barrios. I just hope that Barrios does well against the old veteran, aka legend. I mean, you're supposed to, but Pacquiao does definitely got a chance.
Well, that's what I was gonna
who
ask.
who
Like,
who has more power than Pacquiao?
I mean, have you sparred Pacquiao? I know when
Deontay
you,
Wilder? like,
but have you sparred Pacquiao out at the Wild Card gym and or
no, no,
no?
no,
Ah
no.
man, like
I
never,
wanted
man.
to, I wanted to, but I wasn't the guy that they wanted for that. Like I was a little too tricky with my boxing. I can be very difficult for people to fight, and they needed somebody else. But that somebody else did really good too, though. Like Gio Cabrera, he was amazing. He still did very good. So I don't know. But Pacquiao is still Pacquiao. I mean, he's definitely my favorite fighter of all times. Outside of Ali. So
Would
take it if you could, if you will.
I mean, if you fought Pacquiao, would that be like an Ali Larry Holmes moment where like after if you would get the win, and everything worked out, would you kind of shed a tear a little bit? Because I just talked to Mario, and
Yeah,
Mario's like, not in
yeah.
his case, because he's Mexican. He's like they call him the Executioner, so he's beating up a lot of his idols. So he kind of wants to get it back, but in this case, like you would kind of be hesitant because he's your favorite fighter.
No, it'd be a huge honor. Yeah, I would probably shed a tear, and but probably most likely, most
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah.
Um, One of my first times ever boxing a professional fighter was Marco Antonio Barrera for the second Manny Pacquiao fight. When I was in Guadalajara in Jalisco in this little rundown gym, and like and Marco comes into the gym and needs southpaw work with somebody fast, and they happen to see Apollo or me, what I mean, out there doing this thing, and seeing what he was up against was like, wow, like they're fighting at the very best, and it was just a huge experience. And then not to mention, then the next biggest thing I've ever had was, as a kid, I fought, and I was in training camp with Shane Mosley for the Pacquiao fight
Just crazy, bro.
as an amateur.
This is legendary, man.
As an amateur, and like they're like there's a whole lot of speculation around me because I heard a lot of people in the gyms and this and that, and they're like, "Look, man, we'll be a fucking laughing stock if we find out that if somebody found out that you hurt Shane and sparring and this and that." You know what I mean? But no, Shane did great in camp, and like I used to train and study Pacquiao for years, and it would be like, wow, it'll be a wild moment if I ever got in the ring with Pacquiao or Floyd.
Hmm.
That'll be a wild moment, a highlight that I might just end it right there, man. Like, like fuck you, like what I mean. After this win, I'm done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities because granted, they might elevate Rolly to WBA if you and Rolly happen to fight to the road to Pac because I've talked to some credible people. I know the stories. Pacquiao's old. Why are we doing this? Barrios will win. Too young. This and that. Triangle theory. Lost to Ugas. He beat Ugas. He should beat Pacquiao. Long layoff. But if you beat Rolly and Pacquiao, I mean, I don't know if he wants to continue fighting, but there's a possibility of a unification fight, which, I know will be probably 47, 48 Pacquiao, but I mean there's a possibility, right?
I mean, that'll be amazing.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way.
I mean I mean you talk like storyline, right? I mean, you
It's
know,
all about the story. Who would have known, you
yeah.
know, that I'll be facing against the older version of myself. you
But
know.
but when you really sit down and think about it, like I know he's so much older and you've studied his moves and you were brought in as like sparring partner for Barrera and Shane. Is there any chance that in the beginning of the fight, Manny starts fast, blitzes Barrios, that even though they have him as an underdog, that like he can legitimately win this fight and walk away as the victor? Or is that too crazy? Like, am I giving him too much credit at the age that he is? Am I becoming a fanboy in this sense of like,
I
yes,
don't know. I don't know. I know that has the same type of faith that somebody like George Foreman have. George Foreman faith saved his life.
Mhm.
And if anybody was going to do it, it would be God, and it would be somebody like Pacquiao that believes in God that much more than, let's say, Barrios. Like So I don't know. It's possible.
Mhm.
He pulled it off once before with Keith Thurman. He wasn't supposed to win against Keith Thurman or even be that competitive, because I would give it a 50-50 fight. That was kind of like could have went either way, but wow, he did very good against somebody like Keith Thurman in his prime. So can he do it again? Probably. I mean, we haven't not seen that before with somebody like Roberto Duran that just boom and knock out this big giant dude. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
happens.
absolutely. Wanting to just get back to you, right? I know there was a couple of people that essentially like you had like some call outs, right? I think, Josh Taylor, which I know he just recently lost, Jack Catterall, Connor Ben, I'm sure everybody, but like is the welterweight divisions the campaigning weight that you want to compete at, right? And is some of these guys fights that you feel like it's just reasonable to be made because of the pieces and the people that you're starting to work with now?
Yeah, I honestly, like, you know what? The Rolly Romero fight probably be the best fight. And it's, you know what? That might actually happen. Now that I'm thinking about it, we're talking this, I got to make some calls,
Yeah.
and make this happen. This would be great. Um, but yeah, like as far as the call outs with like all these top fighters, it's like, yeah, I want to make the fights happen. It's just trying to get off the ground,
Hmm.
because if we don't have somebody like Turkey, that honestly, I'm like the physical representation of a fighter of what Turkey wants to do for boxing. Yeah, I mean, I talked to him, and I heard his speech when it came to like the WBC convention and everything in Germany, and like he wants to make boxing great again. He wants to see the spirit of what boxing used to be. Well, that spirit is in somebody like me. The greatest underdog story that they have in boxing today, and the thing is, that's the only way we can really bring it back. We need guys that's silly, that captivate people's hearts
Hmm.
on a level that's beyond just boxing. We fell in love with Ali not because he was a great fighter. We loved we loved the art of who he was outside the ring. We Rocky, like this whole Rocky sensation that ended up becoming like one of the biggest franchises in the history of the world. We fell in love with the idea of that character who was an incredibly talentless underdog, you know? And that's what you have in me. I might not be talentless, but I am an underdog.
Hmm.
Incredibly big underdog with a big heart and a whole lot of charisma that's fascinating to watch inside and outside the ring.
It's like those old school HBO productions, right? Like I know there was a fight like the Richardson Hitchens and Cambosos, and they had like a heavyweight on their name, Terra Moana. Like it's like this guy apparently
Is
was
it
an
Samoan
Olympic.
guy?
Yeah, or like something like that. I think you've seen him like he knocked this guy out in like the first round or so. But it's so much in boxing. Like I wasn't able to follow his story. Like I guess I was doing research on the fly. But I'm thinking like in between broadcasts, I'm like, yo, why don't they just tell me the damn story? Like why don't they do a production, tell me why he's important, where he came from, what he means to the, Australia and all the just all in between. So I'm not sitting here on my computer going like, have I seen him before? What the fuck have I seen him before? Blah, 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 blah. I'm doing all this research just to still like I don't know if I can be invested because I don't know really anything about him. I know I'm boxing, I can't know everything, but it does bother me. But like you said, like HBO, they would show the good and the bad, and kind of tell the whole story. Like I think HBO would have probably abused you. Like, you know what I mean? Like
They
across
would
the
have
board.
slutted me out.
But your story, right? Essentially is
Yeah.
like they would tell the people why you have this story of a fighter beyond just in the ring, like a fighter in life, right? You have a
Yeah.
purpose, a meaning. Like I didn't even know that you were fucking sparring Barrera and Shane. Like you know what I mean? Like what? Like during
Yeah,
that
as a
time.
little kid, because I was so fast and strong,
Hmm.
I was like, and especially with volume, I was one of the best interpretations of a Manny Pacquiao in his prime at that time. And luckily for them, like, I didn't have the power that Pacquiao had, but I had the movement and the speed. I was able to cut distance within a fraction of a second. and then disappear within a fraction of a second, and things like that, you know.
So
All the
so
reasons why I went 3 years without a fight in Philadelphia and couldn't get sparring or nothing, and all the reasons why while I'm in that particular state in my life, Boots and Bozy Ennis still speaks about that one sparring session on my day off of feeling like shit. Well, I haven't fought in what, 2.5 years, and my career is probably over. Like,
mhm.
that's the best thing they got. But the reason why is because I was that good back in those days. Like I was that good to a point where as though like that was something that they had to remember, because that was like their thoughts of like, we just might be the best fighter in Philadelphia if we can beat this guy, because I was the best fighter in Philadelphia at the time.